Welcome to What's Your Next podcast.
Hi, thank you so
I
much for
am so
having me. I'm
excited to
delighted
chat
to
with
be
you. I
here.
was telling you before we hit record that we have similar book tastes, and I am so excited to chat because we're gonna talk about spicy romances and starting with your book. So first things first, tell us a little bit about yourself.
My name is Alys Murray. I am a rom-com romance writer from New York. I write for film and television. You might have seen it on Hallmark, Lifetime, and Life's You. And I wrote and directed a short film called Beware Lucky Ghosts for Netflix's Inevitable Visionary Fellowship, starring Julia Lasters. If there are any high school and musical fans out there, she's our star. And I've written small town and cozy romance for a long time. And then I briefly worked as a sex toy review. And my world kind of exploded. And I decided that it was time to let like my horny fly
I have
live a
to
little
tell
bit.
you, in the Sixer review, back in the 2010s, early girl boss era, I decided to sell sex toys and I joined an MLM. Very sketchy. We know the MLMs are sketchy and scams. We know, not know that I was into a
Yeah,
scam. I now consume a lot of anti MLM content. When I was in the sex toy MLMs, I had to do parties and talk about the sex toys and sell them so they can recruit other people and do different things. It lasted for a month, but I have to say, there was a thriving world, sex toys in the MLM world.
absolutely. Absolutely. Having my aunt, my great aunt, be like, when
Yeah.
when MLMs were first starting, her friend founded one. And she was like the one woman help desk. People would call and be like, I got some toy stuff here. It's going to the doctor. Like, she the troubleshooter for this company, which I always think would be such a fun job. But she loved it, but she has to do it. So yeah, we have
And
gone
sex toy
calling our
bots, but
toy
you wrote
path.
a book about sex toy engineering. So we got to talk about a little bit
Yeah.
about first things first, the premise. We got a virgin wants to get rid of her virginity, works in the sex toy industry, and has someone who's like gonna teach her lessons of seduction. And then they realize, oh my gosh, we do it once, maybe some other time, more times. So what is happening? We got the sex lessons, which we love to see. Talk to us about the premise of the book, incorporating the sex toy, because you kind of got to do research. You have to understand, like, the engineer, because that has changed dramatically. It's like 10 years
Yeah.
since I was selling MLM sex toys. We have moved beyond the rabbit and moved to other areas.
So it really is. I love I think we get or like dating lessons kind of a common trope, one of my favorite tropes in romance. But you typically see it as very male teacher energy and like female Randy Tiller energy in more ways than one. And I wanted to know what does that look like if it's more mutual? Our heroine was never had sex before, but she knows so much about pleasure, she knows so much about toys, she knows so much about the industry. And so the guy she's hooking up with is new in her office and he's like attempting to building for the building. And he's, look, I'll have something to do. That sounds great. I'm in. But I don't know a lot about toys. You can teach me about sex toys, and I'll teach you about sex. And so we have this really fun visual interplay of these two people who are very well versed in their own kind of sex happening. And get each other and kind of get the synthesis of the two, which is really fun. And to your point about the industry changing, it is now a very I want to say feel forward, but I don't think that's actually really what I mean to say. I think more egalitarian, the whole industry. It really is focused on everyone's pleasure. It's everybody having a good time, no matter how you identify or what purpose you have or what kind of orgasm you prefer. I think it's an industry that is extremely open minded about bringing you and your partner pleasure or partners of whatever maybe. And I think it's a really fun starting point for a romance. Like, what does a romance novel that has the spicy chapter look like if everyone's having a good time all the time? And like, how many ways can I make them have fun and have a good time while like developing their so yeah, it's a blast. It really is fun to look at an industry. My agent really early in the process said, I want this to be for sex toy what Emily Henry into romance novels, right? We want this kind of the ultimate defense of sex toys in and out of the bedroom, in partnerships, solo and with a partner. And I was like, you're right, I really opportunity. And so I tried to grab it with your hand and make it work. I think we at least had a good time.
Well, I think it did. I think your book actually did. And I remember my first introduction to sex toys was Sex in the City when Charlotte gets rabbit and she becomes addicted to the rabbit. And then about it. And it was like, I was 18, 19, and this is the odds, the early odds. Like, you're like, no, the internet was not the internet that we have now.
You can't really order one from Amazon, but
You
store
get
it.
a baby
It's
in New
terrifying.
York. Like, it was like, please, and you just have to outwork
Right.
the sex store in like random sketchy town by the strip club where the porn was at. So it was just like an interesting and dynamic to see. Now we have influencers selling the Balesa sex toy. They'll give you it away. Like it's
Right.
free gift. You get a sex toy and then you sign up for it. It's a thing. So it has moved from taboo to now you can order discreetly. Now you don't have to go to a store. You don't need to see someone. You can order beyond the massages. Like you can actually have like actually pleasure, and you can in different types of pleasure. And you can have noise. You don't have noise. You have like vibrations. You don't have any specific like all these different things. And now there's apps along with it. It has come a long way.
Exactly. We're living in the story future.
I love that it's sex positive in a way that looks at the virgin trope not as a place where there's something wrong with it. There's nothing, it's just a choice. And yes, there was a bad breakup, but at the same time, it's not looking at this because the old school virgin trope meant that she was pure, she was waiting for the right moment and the right orgasm was going to happen, where she's like, hey, this is just what it is. And I still have orgasms. This is not the first orgasm. Men did not fix me to have an orgasm.
Right, exactly. Now, really wanted to make sure I played with and like steered away from. I wanted to make sure that because she had worked in the sex toy industry, like obviously she has to have. Look, I was single. I didn't have sex until much later in life. I was single most of my life, and like it's like floating orgasm. All right, no one keeping me from that because I was with a person. I want to be realistic about it. Okay, this is 2026. If a person is a virgin, like they're not going to be totally unfamiliar with it. They're going to know what they like, and they're going to need a partner to figure out what it's like when you introduce another human being to the equation. And I think it's really fun first out. He's quite like a loner, and she's isolated by choice, keeps her distance from people. And once she starts to open herself up to physical connection with the other person, it also helps develop her character in all these other ways. Not, oh, a man came in and fixed me, and nothing was ever wrong with me I thought was wrong. And so now I feel safe to explore all the other parts of my life.
Yes.
As a character development.
Yeah, and I think in some ways the sex scenes worked as an emotional driver. I think it's and this is a bridge, but heated rivalry is very popular right now for many reasons. But one of the reasons I did talk to Rachel back in the day, and she said a main point her sex scenes actually had emotional arc, and that's probably what's working. Is you need to read the sex scenes because the sex scenes are going to explain how the relationship's going to work. Like you can't skip that, and there's a purpose. And I think your book is bringing that purpose again. It's like an emotional arc. There must be a meaning. It's not just like banging for the sake of banging. There's actually an emotional payoff. That's part of it. It's not that we want closed door and we're mad if it's closed door. It's like the fact that you shut the door on the emotional payoff that we're gonna get when we have sex, and that's why we want to. It's not just the sex for sake, because that's erotica, and that's fine. There's actually a whole genre for it. But when you talk about romantic sex scenes, have an emotional arc that drives the story. And that's why in some ways Hate Robbery is working, because we see the emotional arc working on those sex scenes.
Absolutely. Yeah, I absolutely had to cut. Like, I made a rule for myself. I had to further their story to win. I wanted to see what it looks like if like all the sex scenes were not right, like that. And I shot a scene where he made her like he was teaching her to drive, to know how to drive. And he makes her climax with his car speakers, like the vibrations of his car speakers. And I love that scene so much. And maybe one day I'll release it like as a freebie. Wasn't doing anything for those characters, which delighting me personally. And so I care about it. I know, I ruined things. Sometimes I show your darling making girl.
I think you just need to release it as a freebie, as like you just let him freebie.
Little newsletter magnet
or sex hour. It's like you just do the freebie, just like a new adventure in the car. It'll take your speakers at a new level that you never expected.
That's how Bella learned to drive. or like doesn't want to go fast, and I won't turn it up unless you drive it for me. It's funny. But alas, it'll have to be a reader. Everyone,
Awesome. All right, so let's talk about the transition between screenwriting, because writing for movies, writing for Hallmark, Lifetime, and Netflix is screenwriting is a very different than writing books, because books actually have descriptions and it has a world that you gotta build it in. Well, it's not. It can be dialogue heavy, but it's still like less dialogue and more stuff. What was your transition like between screenwriting into writing spicy? Because Hallmark does not have spicy at this level.
No, it's the opposite. I had a very weird trajectory. So I actually, my first ever publisher with Korean press name, and it was erotica. Like it was in their dirty bit line or naughty bit line, what it's called, and every 1,500 words I had to write a scene. So the first thing I ever published were just like straight fun. And I still love those books. I adore them in like my own little way. But like after I get that, I'm thinking, well, what's the opposite of this? Metasaurus is breaking at the word penis. It's all jokes. The Hallmark wanted the publishing line, and so I was like, that is the opposite of feeling erotica. And so I wrote a Hallmark book, and they bought it. And it was off of the back of those books that I got my first screenwriting gig, writing Lifetime, which then became Hallmark, and I did other stuff. But so I've lived kind of in this cozy world for a long time. I think to use those words just but like I worked in the closed door space for a long time. But like I'm freak at heart, and I feel like you can only keep yourself for yourself for so long. So it was really delightful to come back. And I think to me, the thing I always tell people ask me like, well, do you like one better or worse, or do you? Is this like the real you and the Hallmark, the fake you? And I'm like, that's true with all. What I think it is to me is scenes and physical intimacy, or just like one tool in an author, a romance author in particular, toolbox to character development and storytelling. And some stories call for a lot of those moments and call for none of them, right? And what my kind of dual writing career has allowed me to do is tell stories in a lot of different ways and not have to force a story one way or the other because of some man. Like I get to tell my one kid Christmas romances, and then I also get to do. So I've been very lucky.
You're doing both. I'm glad that it's like in a way it doesn't feel like the duality. I think right now it seems in a romance space there seems to like either are they going against each other when they're really reality is sometimes you just want to skip a sex scene because it's not doing it for you, and sometimes you just want to have an angsty hate sex or captive captor as I'm with the Mafia romance. It's full of red flags, but God bless. I need to read that book. So a reader is not an absolute. They might only read that, but many readers are like in a spectrum, and it just
completely. Like I always think historical romance is where I always go because I think historical romance is like such a rich, fun playground. And two of my favorite writers right now, I have one of them recommended, but one is Lydia Lloyd, who is like my freaky, erotic, historical romance. And the other is Evie Matthews, who did not do scenes at all. Everything was closed door. And like I would read anything that those people wrote because the romances are the things I'm coming for, and those are satisfying and good. And their use of scenes and the lack of sex scenes, it's part of the way that they tell those stories and develop that intimacy. So like I have it all. Have it all. Finally are living the dream.
So let's talk some book recommendations because I love your recommendations. And I love how you post Lydia's recommendations. If you think mine are not sexy enough, who are you? Let's talk Lydia's recommendation first, and then we'll talk about the other recommendations.
Okay, so I love all things Lydia Lloyd. I think Lydia Lloyd is there's like a phrase in your sisters. I love whatever's wrong with you. That's what my little sisters always. I mean, I love whatever's wrong with you. Like, as talking how I feel about Lydia Lloyd, like I love whatever is wrong with Lydia Lloyd. It's delightful. Everything's fantastic. So she has this new book called The Seduction of Mr. Alfred Saintbury. And my pick was if you walk away from a little buzz being like, good, it fights here. My first thought is, I don't know what's wrong with you. I love it, but I don't know what's wrong with you. But that is Lydia's book, filthy in all of the best ways. It's about a rich kind of alpha heroine in Regency era England who inherits his house and she needs to get pregnant, and she's pick is the horrifically repressed, like actual nasty vicar who is under my care, and you're gonna give me a baby or I'm gonna fire you. Are you sure? And she's absolutely. And then they just have the most like torrid, messed up, like power dynamic switching affair. Then like it's so good, it's delicious. If you want amazing steam and spice in a conventional setting and with an unconventional dynamic, like that's usually something I see in like not as cool historical romance, but because the sexes are reversed and the power dynamic at first is reversed, it's a whole like you got to love it. So yeah, I highly recommend The Seduction of Mr. Alpha.
I'm adding
Very
that
good.
to my TBR. You had me at power dynamics and repressed. That's actually me, and you gotta do it.
Love.
So talk to us about some other recommendations you have.
Okay, so my number one like in companion with a little buzz is Adrienne Hanson's new book rom-com. This is I was earlier saying it's the Barbie me where it's I'm just like you, you're just like me. I'm like that's kind of a little buzz in rom-com. They have so much in common. Funny, high peaked workplace romances that really use sex and physical intimacy to tell like a deep and rich romantic story. And it's also Redo List by Denise Williams, which is very much a book in conversation with a little biased, where it's about someone who has really had a lot taken from them at a young age and decides at an older age, no, that's mine. And I get agency over it. I'm going to decide how it gets done. And has a beautiful, brilliant love story while kind of rebuilding their life. It's a fantastic book. I think people are really gonna love it. It's getting like all the blood for all the right reasons. Could not recommend it enough. And then I think my last recommendation is one that you and I have really connected over, which is A Love Moves Fatal. Like I'm sure I also love A Love Moves Brutal. I'm an OG Love Moves Fatal gal. For those who don't know, I don't know how much.
Yeah, it's Mafia rom-com. That's all I can say.
A Mafia rom-com would pick that I found on Instagram. It like popped up. It was like Mafia rom-com. But basically, female mom boss falls in love with a school teacher. Has to protect him and take him under her wing. And he's kind of like humble and a little bumbling. He's kind of like Ichabod Crane, Milo Thatch, like you're like slutty little blasted school teacher that you had a crush on, like perfect. And then she just thinks she's like this unlovable monster and can never be with a normal person. And then they have this like beautiful, compelling romance where the ice queen melts and the bumbling man finds himself, and like together they build a beautiful relationship. And I just love it so much. And it like launches a great series. Her sister, that made her sister in the next book, and also an exceptional book. So I highly recommend all of Catherine books.
You gotta talk about how the math teacher has to interview mob bosses for her rage merit, because that is the
that is so.
Grease was like, oh, he has to interview all the mob bosses and be like, oh, can you be a good husband?
It's like I totally think in like movie burning. Like I read a book and like immediately like, how do you turn this cinematic? And like in my head, I just have this Danny Elfman scored montage. You know, him like at the counter. So good.
Yes, I think Kath Richards' books, if you're uncertain about Mafia, you're like, I'm into Mafia, it's too many red flags. This actually takes it like upside down because the mob boss is the female and she has a lot of power and she is trying to do it well. Like, she's not horrible as a person. She only kills because she has to kill. It's not like anything else. And she doesn't do any of the sketchy stuff like human trafficking and just drugs. It's lovely. Just drugs. It's okay. So it's business, but, you know, it is what it is. But she is empowered to get this normal guy who is their nephew's math teacher. It's and so cute, and he has no idea this world that is underground. It's happening, and he's just happens to be in the wrong place, wrong right time, or maybe right place, right time. You never know. So it's a great introduction I love that there's like more rom-coms for darker rom-coms. So it checks you to explore those themes that you may think are too dark and to actually explore them in a place where it feels safe and turns the tropes upside down so you can laugh a little bit about it.
And I definitely have that. Like there, and it's incredible for an indie author.
Yeah, this
like
is
a big
you.
new
This is
indie
not.
author.
It's not.
Yeah, it's a new novel, and it's just unbelievably good and like gripping and lovely, and everyone should be reading.
Alys, tell us where you find you online.
Find me at Alys Murray Books, ALYSMURRAY Books on Instagram and AlysMurray.com. Absolutely, thank you so much. Your listeners pre-order a little bun. You can do it at any of your local indie bookstores, but you can also do it specifically at Garden District Books in New Orleans. I will sign it, I will personalize it, and you'll get these really fun, custom little buns just to go with it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.